You're still watching Kakaki, the African Voice. Let's find out what the papers are saying this Monday, the 25th of January, 2021. Lemmy Ohegbe joins us on Newspaper Review. Lemmy, good to see you.
Pleasure being here today.
Morning, Lemmy. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All right, let's begin the newspaper review. We begin from the Vanguard newspaper. Lead story: tension as Ondo governor's 7-day ultimatum to headers expires as presidency drives peace talks between Southwest governors Miyetti Allah, several riders. To this story that has been on the front burner, it's on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Bandits abduct 8 children, others for Abuja orphanages. That's on page 7. Gunmen kill policeman, also making it to the front page.
The Daily Sun newspaper stays in the Southwest as Southwest bowls over herdsman quit order. OPC, IPOB, Masab reply Miyetti Allah. That's on page 6 of the paper. Also, the front page of the Daily Sun. COVID-19, Buhari task ECOWAS on indigenous development of vaccines on page 7 of the paper.
The Guardian newspaper is next. While herbal medicine not certified to contain COVID-19, NAFDAC insists on clinical trials of product. The front page story concludes on page 2. Investors count losses as restrictions, taxes slow breweries. A front page story also concludes on page 2.
The Nigerian Tribune is reporting on the Barakpa community, says we have been forced to pay about 50 million naira ransom. That's what the paper is reporting. Also on the front page of this paper, uproar over herders, convene meeting of Nigerian leaders to solve crisis now. Saraki tells Buhari, pages 2 and 5.
The Daily Trust newspaper leads with despite importation ban, foreign rice floods Nigerian markets. There are 3 riders. We have seized thousands of bags coming from the customs. You can see picture story there. The story is on page 5 of the Daily Trust. Cultists burn 35 houses, markets in Enugu. It's also making it to the front page.
The Nigerian pilots give account of what? Sarab says FG should account for 729 billion naira paid to 24.3 million poor Nigerians on the front page of that story of the paper, and continues on page 8. Also on the front page, EEDC begins free mass metering in Southeast. That's Enugu Electricity Distribution Company on page 7 of the paper.
The Daily Alsec newspaper is next. FG commits $80 million on terrorism, banditry war, Buhari tells ECOWAS. Front page story continues on page 2. Senate uncovers 50 billion naira mismanaged in NBET escrow account. That's on page 2. It concludes on page 2 also of the Daily Asset.
Let's look at the News Direct. Presidency steps into Ondo Fulani herdsman feud. It's what's leading the paper. Something on business. Nigeria's economic outlook in 2021 will be challenging on page 13.
The Daily Times lead story: Senate uncovers mismanaged 50 billion naira escrow account funds. That's on page 2 also of the paper. Something on the US beneath that picture story of President Muhammadu Buhari there. Biden speaks to leaders of Britain, Canada and Mexico.
The Daily Champion is reporting on the herdsman crisis as well, says military police must not take sides with criminal element. That's according to the Labour Party. Also on the front page of this paper, taking into the international scene, PDP to Biden, sanction APC leaders, Buhari's officials over corruption assault on democracy. Page 3.
Daybreak Nigeria is next. Vaccination order written boldly. Vacation order written boldly. Miyetti Allah leaders to meet with Southwest governors. Middle Belt groups backs are carried along. Quick notice on page 7. Suspected assassins abduct, kill local government chairman in Taraba. That's on page 8 of Daybreak Nigeria.
This Nigeria, Marwa starts the war with compulsory test of public officers. Of course, that's the editorial of the paper talking about Buba Marwa, who's now in charge of the NDLEA. Says should start compulsory test of public officers. Interesting headline. Ondo quit notice to herdsmen. The rate, that's what's actually the lead story on the paper. Zekuma Adegboru Sans activist lock horns.
This day newspaper is next. More states trigger red alert. Prepare to ward off renegade herdsmen. You have 4 riders to that story, which concludes on page 8 of the paper. FG boosts insurgency war, acquires 23 new military aircraft. That's on page 5 of this day newspaper.
The blueprints. Still staying with the herdsman crisis, but this time reporting from the perspective of Macban. That's the Miyetti Allah members now live in fear, fleeing Oyo. That's what they're saying. And it's on the front page of this paper. CBN to sanction violators of diaspora remittances guidelines.
The leadership newspaper is next. Beneath the nameplates, FG moves to stop 234 billion naira annual loss to Apapa port gridlock. The front page story ends on page 4. The lead story, also on a quick notice, Akere Dolu refuses to shift grounds as headers seek truce. There are 5 riders to that story. Read it up on page 4 of the leadership newspaper.
Business AM is reporting analysts downplay rates tweak as CBN's MPC meets. With inflation knee on its neck, MPC can't breathe. Rates caught and Apex Bank caught between pandemic and spiraling inflation despite recession. Right, let's talk about some of the issues on the papers this Monday morning. Lemuel Hegbe is still with us here in the studio. The herdsman crisis, the tension, security tension in the southwest of the country enjoyed the headlines throughout last week and has continued till this week. What do you think is the reason why this story has continued to dominate the headlines? Is it the inaction of the authorities at play, or the fact that it is a conflagration waiting to happen?
Yes, I really would think that all of these has gotten to this point because of the very poor management of this, or the poor intervention of the federal government on this matter. Now, what is the real issue? There's concern, especially in Ondo. The Ondo governor issued a quick notice from forest reserves. Now, you and I know that victims of kidnapping and all sorts of criminalities are usually tucked out there in the forest. And he says, no, let's have the Fulanis, the headsmen, those who are in the forest reserve, come out to the city. Let's know you, let's document you, live within the people. Now, unfortunately, because of primordial ethnic sentiments, people decided to skew the narrative and make it seem like Governor Akere Dolu was asking the headsmen to quit the entire state. No, for security purposes, knowing what those forest reserves are used for, it was a very responsible decision on the part of the governor. But the narrative was skewed, and we needed the federal government to have a more fatherly and statesmanly approach to it. Instead of doing that, they rather exacerbated tension, and that's the reason this has prolonged. Because if you have the president, for instance, wade into this and say, yes, this is within the legitimate rights of the governor and the people of Ondo State. Because again, we say we'll run a federalism. And within a federalism, the states are independent and can take decisions how the forest reserves are managed. Unfortunately, we are a people given to playing ethnic and primordial sentiments up to the detriment of the collective good of our people. And it's good now that the papers and the people have sustained this advocacy to the point now that there seem to be some softening up on positions. Before now, the headsmen and their group will not actually say they are willing to come to a round table. The most expensive peace is cheaper than the cheapest war. So I would advise that we reach an honorable compromise. The honorable compromise being that the people who are all involved do this for the common good of our people. And that means we sit down, we discuss it, and we understand that there is nobility in saying, come, let's know you, come, let's live together so we can secure our country and our people.
Now, did he have to take an ultimatum for us to get to this?
Yeah, it all boils down to the fact that we're a people given to seeking the 11th hour miracle. We're a people who are more reactionary than proactive. We've seen it going on in several places. We've seen the old drama in the Middle Belt for so long. But because we always play the ostrich, we play politics up instead of playing humanity up. And that's the reason it has had to take us getting to this level. But I believe that at the end of the day, an understanding will be forged, honorable compromise will be struck, and we will have some level of peace come back to our country.
All right, Chris Nwandu joins us. He's an online news publisher, and he would also be giving us his perspective to the stories making it to the front page. Good morning, Chris Nwandu.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, a couple of stories making it to the front pages of the dailies. One of the major stories is on the ultimatum. The leadership leads with Akeredolu refuses to shift grounds as headers seek truth. For you, what do you make of the headlines for today?
It's quite unfortunate that when the rest of the world is talking about COVID and how to solve the problem of COVID that is ravaging every part of the world, including Nigeria, when the world is talking about the issue of economy and how to better the economy and take the economy to the next level, when the rest of the world is talking about social infrastructure and how to better the life of their citizens, what we are talking about in Nigeria and that what is making the headlines and the cover of all newspapers is how certain people who seem to have turned themselves to tin gods harnessing and people's land, destroying crops and properties, crops, and also engage in nefarious activities, which is inimical to the existence of fellow Nigerians. So it's not surprising that that is taking the front burner. And to me, if care is not taken, the next civil war we are going to have is going to be between Nigerians and also the Fulani herdsmen, and that is a dangerous dimension to read for me. How come that it's only the Fulani herdsmen that everybody is talking about? How come that it's only the Fulani herdsmen that we continue to talk about in the south, southeast, north central, even the northeast, and even in the northwest? And that is so. The governors, since are helpless, and what they can do is to engage in self-help, which is what Governor Akeredolu has done. And just as my colleague said here, the Governor Akeredolu didn't say that Fulani or Fulani herdsmen should leave Ondo State. All he said is that they should come out of the forest. He doesn't want to see anybody in the forest, since that is where most of the people that are kidnapped are taken to and ransom are taken, collected from them. The same thing is happening in your state. You know what has been happening with Sunday Igboho and what is happening, and the quick notice giving some Fulani herdsmen to leave some part of your state. And this is where the federal government should come into play and make sure that they do the rightful and the needful to make sure that every Nigerian, irrespective of wherever they are, will feel safe. And I said, but good enough, the federal government would release last night said that has given a directive that the Southwest governors should meet with the herdsmen and security agencies to be able to leave this in the board. But I don't know why this is coming now. Why is it coming now? Why is it coming down after the issuance of ultimatum to by the governor, and also in Oyo State? We need to wait for that. Let's see how this pans out. They are meeting today, and let's see what comes out of it.
This has really boiled down to creating serious ethnic tensions in the country. We see the front page of the Daily Sun says OPC, IPOB, Masab reply Mietiala. The This Day newspaper front page also is reporting that states in the the southeast are on red alert because of the spillover of the herdsmen who have been evicted in different places in the southwest, are likely going to flock in to those places. What does this mean in terms of a collective national security in the country?
Okay, let's say again, because it's important for even the herdsmen to appreciate where Governor Akeredolu and his colleagues are coming from. Where are they coming from? The federal government, the state security apparatuses have told us repeatedly that most of the Fulani, the herdsmen who come into the country to commit all sorts of criminalities, are actually foreigners. It's well documented. The president and his team have said that repeatedly. So if we have to take what they've said for being the truth, for being a fact, then we really need to appreciate and applaud the fact that the Southwest Governor, Akeredolu, leading the party, is saying, come out, let's know you, live with us, let's be free as one. Okay? So, because we are a people who feel more of our ethnicity than our nationality, the tensions must boil over because we've allowed it so. We've not managed it at the teething stage. And I would say that federal government itself must take responsibility for allowing these embers to be fanned increasingly. It is a notorious fact that we are more divided now than we were before 2015.
Positions are being taken in different parts of the country. Yes,
absolutely. So it brings back the question, the begging question about restructuring. We really need to address our nationality question. Do we want to remain together? If we want to remain together, then there must be mutual respect. People cannot use double standards. If you live in my community, then you must play by the rules. If you live in a forest in my territory, then I say you cannot stay in the forest because of certain things going on. If your hands are clean, he who goes to equity must come with clean hands. If your hands are clean and what you are doing is noble business, even in the forest, you want to come out and be properly documented, and they will create the avenue for you to be able to operate. So, yes, I remind also, in the 16th century when Italy was created, the philosopher said, we have created Italy. Why don't we now create Italians? Do we have Nigerians who think Nigeria? Now, while one or two persons are busy thinking Nigeria and wanting to be nationalist, the bulk of the people are playing up ethnicity, tribe, and tongue. So it's difficult, and the only way we can get it right is to come together again and rethink and rediscuss and renegotiate our common existence. Until we do that, we are papering over the cracks. We are using, okay, the federal government is directing the Southwest Governor. It doesn't even have the locus. It's a federalism. What you can do is to mediate, and you mediate from a position of nobility where the parties can trust you, where the parties do not see you as only fanning the interest of a certain group of people. So tension has reached this point, but I urge the Southwest governors, I urge Governor Akeredolu, if the stakeholders, all of them can come together, let's listen to each other, let's have a honorable compromise, as I will say. But ultimately, the people in the forest must understand that we cannot, if we must secure our country, we cannot tolerate at any level people going to stay in the forest reserve and making insecurity to even be more heightened.
Like one of the papers there is reporting, Nigerian Tribune, Ibarapa community says they've paid out about 50 million naira in ransom. Now, the issue of kidnapping and other criminality happening across the country, like you said, pointed to one particular group, is still an issue. On page 25 of the Nigerian Tribune, you have 19 victims, being rescued in Kogi State by hunters. Another story says bandits kill 6, injure over 20 in fresh attacks in Niger. And let's also not forget that in Taraba State, local government chair was killed on Sunday, and in fact his nephew also. Now, Chris Wandu, the issue of kidnappings and killings across the country beyond the southwest is still something that is seen daily, being read in the media space. For you, what should be done at this time? Do we need to wait for several ultimatums from different state governments before the federal government or the leaders and stakeholders would meet to actually find out who these persons are?
Well, to me, for this barrage of problems we are having, for me, it is, I put it at the door of lack of leadership. And you can stretch that from Abuja to Akure to Imo State to Kanu to Maiduguri or wherever. What we are lacking now is true leadership. Because when the APC government was campaigning, or we are campaigning before the election, one of the cardinal points for which they campaign or with which they campaign was this issue of security or insecurity, and they promised to secure all parts of Nigeria. It was based on that promises that people gave them the mandate, believing that well, let's try a general who has seen it all, and we feel more secure. But are we secured? A few days ago, the presidency came to say that Nigeria is far better than what it was as of 2015, which is a big lie to me. So, so we need to rejig our security architecture, which also takes us back to what some of us have been saying, and is becoming a broken record, that the security chiefs need to be changed. The Inspector General Police tenure will lapse on the 1st of February. I don't know whether he will be reappointed. The states are now taking the initiative to create their own security agencies, which is why in the southwest we have the Amotekun already in place. Some other states in the southeast and the south are thinking of similar thing. If the security apparatus is working effectively as it were, I don't think any state will want to do that. Which why I agree with my my colleague there that we have to look at the issue of restructuring. The only solution to some of this problem, apart from leadership problem, is that of restructuring. We have to look at the cardinal principles that put us together. The initial, what we had was that what we have presently is supposed to last for about 100 years. After which we can now sit down to look at whether we want to remain together or go our different ways. That we need to do. Then a situation where, like the statement credited to one of the leaders of Miyetia yesterday, where he said that Fulanis owns the Nigerian land, every single land in Nigeria. That is inflammatory. How can you come from Sokoto or wherever? I've come to claim my father's land in Umungobo, in Imo State, where I come from. That by so you are trying to cause trouble, because I will not agree to give you any inch of that land. We've talked about the issue of ranching. Most governors, most state governments, and even the federal government agree that the best way to go about this issue is ranching. What are we doing in that way? So it is a big problem we are having on our hands, and on a daily basis it's getting worse and worse. That people are now devising self-help, and that in itself is the most dangerous part of it. When the situation comes up and people now start no longer believe in the security apparatus of both the federal government, that is what is, and that is what people are taking to. Just this morning, we're just getting the information that the spokesperson of Nigeria Immigration in Edo State has been kidnapped. The woman was kidnapped while going to church yesterday. She has not been rescued, and is going that. So it's no longer a southwest thing. We are also battling with the challenges of insecurity in the northeast. Boko Haram is not letting go, and they're getting bigger and bigger by the day. Nasarawa State Governor came a few days ago that his state is becoming another heaven for Boko Haram. That is also going to stretch our security apparatus. So I believe that the federal government, especially the president, which box stopped on his table, should rise up to the occasion and make sure that we are secured. It's only under such condition that you can have economic boom. No person or nobody will come from outside the country to invest in Nigeria in a situation where the life and properties of those coming is not secured. And that to me is a very, very big challenge we need to face.
Yes, indeed. Big challenge, of course, insecurity, a major issue in Nigeria. Point he just made there, the fact that in Nasarawa State on Friday, we had report that about 6 soldiers had been killed. The governor said something about terrorists taking over a large swath of territory there. In Niger State, a similar situation. It's more or less been run over by bandits. These 2 states border the FCT. It's getting very close at home, Lemmy. We are in the FCT, supposedly the safest place. But if they are laying siege and carrying out activities, daring and brazen activities in the neighboring states, it means it's just a matter of time before we hear something terrible happening in the FCT. But let's move on.
Sorry, just before you go, let's say clearly that we are just living in self-delusion if we say Abuja is even safe. Now, if you go, most of the criminalities, kidnapping, abductions in Abuja are unreported. If you go to Abaji and Gwagwalada, all of those axes, Abaji, Gwagwalada, Kuje area, those areas have a lot of thick forest also, and a lot of kidnapping is done around there. And you would see the one that also happened. Yes, some get reported, most don't get reported. They play it down. You would see again that it was in Abaji that an orphanage was raided and about 9 kids or thereabout were taken away. That tells you that Abuja is not even safe at all. We used to think it was safe. It's no longer safe. And you have it in states, Niger and Nasarawa, bordering the town. So what it suggests to you is that so long as Nasarawa and Kogi and Niger are not safe, nobody is safe even in Abuja. So we need to take it seriously. We need to know what the president is also doing about the need to either extend, and I think that they should get us a new IG. They should also talk about the service chiefs. Like Chris said, we sound like a broken record, but if a team is not doing well, you change the team. There's too much losses, too much insecurity, and remember, the president will not account to the Nigerian citizenry how much they are expending, but the president will go to ECOWAS and go tell them they've spent $80 million on fighting terrorism. This charity should begin at home. We should begin to account, not look beautiful outside and yet do not have respect for the citizens who pay your salary.
All right, if a team is not performing, you change the team or you change the coach. So let's talk a bit about sports now. Let's look at the sports headlines on the pages this Monday. Nasarawa United grab away win against Wolves. Okay, there's a problem with video wall there. I hope that solves itself okay quickly. Against Wolves to reach summit. It's rare, Lemmy, to find away teams winning away games in the Nigerian Football League, but this is happening. Good thing for Nigerian sports or football?
Yes, beautiful thing. Once there's a level playing ground and security is well beefed up and the officials do the right thing, that is, if it's a penalty, it's a penalty, irrespective of which is the home team or which is the away team. Of course, it will attract more people to wanting to go out and watch. Unfortunately, with COVID, we cannot really go to the stadium like that, but it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction to have away wins, just like we have in the premierships too.
All right, for Arsenal fans, those still in love with Ozil. Ozil completes move from Arsenal to Fenerbahce. Let me the story of Ozil's stay in Arsenal and eventual move to Fenerbahce. Well, how do you see panning out?
So much love lost between the management and Ozil, so it was necessary for them to find a way to separate without being at daggers drawn. So yeah, I think Ozil is still a very, very brilliant footballer, and he's gone to Turkey, which is his original place of descent. Of course, you know, Ozil is also he's an activist. very, very vocal activist, and with things happening in Turkey, you would also hear him delve into controversial statements as usual too. But it's a beautiful thing to move on, and you ran away from the Bruno Fernandes beautiful picture after
that's a Man United fan.
Why did you run from there when it's Man U?
It's a controversial one though. Okay, Chris wants to quickly chip in here.
This one do.
Picture. That is my team.
Which team is that?
Yes.
Which team?
That's the team. Why did you ignore Man?
Which team are you talking about?
Defeat Liverpool last. That's a big match. Did you see the picture?
Well, you did, Chris.
All right, nice. Well, congratulations anyway.
It's good.
Yes, congratulations anyway. We'll see how it pans out.
Thank you so much. Thank you for congratulating us. That's a good match for us today.
The league is still quite young, so we'll see what happens halfway through. But we seem to be talking much more about what's happening in the European leagues than we talk about our local leagues. How do we develop the local leagues? That's obviously a subject for another conversation. But quick one, want to say something about that as we round off?
Okay, yeah, I think we really can. There's so much potential in the Nigerian league, but okay. We get more information about the foreign league before you get a result from a match played in Nigeria. It's tough. When I needed to wear, I am a proud fan of Kano Pillars. When I needed to wear a Kano Pillar jersey, I looked for it everywhere. I didn't find. I had to specially make one. Okay, so. And there is so much market. There are ways we can run it. Perhaps we'll sit down and talk about how AIT and some of us can come together to build while pushing up the English Premiership. We can leverage
sports marketing is
up.
Big
Yes,
business
it's big
anywhere.
business.
I mean, the merchandising alone is what makes most clubs
Yes,
more money than
absolutely.
even the performance, the TV rights at the gate.
Absolutely. There's so much potential.
Maybe we say the app that was recently developed for the league.
Yes, that's also helping because I think we saw the weekend Ahmed Musa was watching. They're trying to promote the game because if you don't get the games on TV, it's difficult to watch.
Chris Wandu saying something.
Yes, I think we need to game the local league. Interest is coming. The league is on DSTV, and one or two matches being shown on a weekly basis now. That in itself is a very good one, but we can get that. Just as rightly said, we need to have it on local TV. This is where sponsorship comes into play. But before sponsorship can come, you have to make it very, very attractive.
Yeah.
Whoever is putting his money there must make sure that he's getting something in return. Yes, some of them will have part of their corporate social responsibilities. That does not necessarily that they just drop money. So you have to be very, very attractive for sponsors to be just like having the Premiership, and the rest of them. A group of us in FC, and I want to smart. So, is cool to go stations and other teams. But we have to make that the stadiums are very, very secure because in a country we're talking of insecurity. If people go to stadium to wall and they killed now, that in itself is a problem. So it is a misgrill, which is why we said that we need to take care of security so as to make sure that people move around easily without fear that anything will happen to them. But it's good that our local is back. But I'm not too happy that we are doing continentally. I think we can better. But let's see how this goes. But for now, it's still good news because for the first time, winning team is winning which is very, very unusual. Nigerian league. That is a good one for me.
All right, interesting. One of the stories we just quickly run through on the sports segment is that Super Eagles striker Ahmed Musa is set for medicals at West Brom. He's fallen out of with his club in Saudi Arabia, so seeking greener pastures. I hope he's actually green over there for him. Thank you so much for being here on Newspaper Review. Chris Wandu is an online publisher. Pleasure having you all the way from Lagos.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks,
Thank you for having me.
And let me as well. Always a pleasure having you here.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, let me enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Now, what next after the 7-day ultimatum in Oyo State? That's the question. We will be looking at how the Oyo State government is trying to